and welcome to the Four Stories podcast. Today we are going to be reviewing Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story, the autobiographical miniseries created by Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan. You might know Ryan Murphy's work. He created the shows Glee and American Horror Story. In this entry, it tells the story of notorious serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer and the bajillion of many films about Dahmer, but the first half is about his origin as a serial killer, and the second half is about the victims that he takes within a period of 1978 to 1991, leading up to the trial and his arrest. It's basically like a 10-hour saga detailing the whole events. I'm curious to know, what do you guys think of the series?
Right. Okay. I'm going to be honest, right? I got through it, right? Mm-hmm. After episode 3, I kind of felt, I don't know if I could watch it because it was becoming very sadomasochist. I understand they had to show his behaviours.
They needed to get into detail, but they did get into detail.
And I felt I didn't want it to be just a gore fest, as you said. They spoke about the victims later, which I think balanced that. You know, but once I'd got to a certain scene in episode 3 with the heart, we're seeing his early thing, I thought to myself, can I watch this? But then I was talking to a fella in work and he said to me, no, you should watch it. It's a really good series. Keep with it. Yeah. And I did. I thought Evan Peters was unbelievable.
Him as Dahmer?
Dahmer.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know how I feel about this series at times, so maybe it is a good series. At times I was feeling sorry for him. All the time, like, I felt like, oh, that poor man. And then he does something horrific and you go, he's a monster. And then you see him again and you go, oh, he's just misunderstood, or he's thing. And at times I was swaying. Evan Peters did such a good job of making him a human being, and I think that was the thing. They call him monster, but we call them monsters because we like to pretend that they're not human. He was human, and that's his faults. But I don't know, like, were you unsettled by this?
I remember just watching the first episode alone, and it got toward the end of it, and I was sitting there looking at my missus. I was like, I can't watch this. I said, you must be joking me. Like, it's, as he said, it gets into a lot of detail, and even there's some stuff in each different episodes, and you're kind of looking at it like, okay, I think you're taking it a bit too far here. Yeah. But they had to do that to give you the understanding, and it was the little details like that kind of gave you the rough idea as to, like, no wonder why they call this fella the monster. Like, he's crazy, like, you know, he's psychotic. Mad. Just some of the things he done in it, you wouldn't believe it would have happened. And so some of the best things about the show was they showed some of the real footage back in the time, from when, like, from all the news reports and stuff. They showed all the real footage, which was great. But as you were saying, Evan Peters deserves some sort of award for this, for going out of his way. If you sat down and watched his interview he had about being ready to play this role, he said himself he was scared to play this role. He was scared to get into the mind frame of a man like this, and that would like, that affect you big time, you know, because you see what it does to some actors, you know, like your Heath Ledgers and all that. But yeah, and as you were saying, you feel sorry for him. I find it mad about shows that are like this, like about serial killers. If you ever notice,
it's the anti-hero, Breaking Bad.
It makes you feel he's the victim. It makes them out to be the victim, the killer, you know. And people need to remember, it's this man. He's the killer. Don't feel sorry for him. It's the other people. And when you're watching it, it's like the other people in it are all little side quests.
Very much so.
Do you know what I mean? So, you get into a bit of their detail, but it's like, right, he's gone, so you're done, get out of him now. And it keeps going on for each. But it's like their side quest, and you feel sorry for him. It's like he's the victim in this.
I don't know what you think about this, Liam, but I felt why this worked as a series is because they went in with the question, why was Dahmer like this?
Yeah.
And I think they show a lot of reasons why he was.
And why did nobody stop him?
And why did nobody stop him?
That's a big
question. And them
question.
questions are constantly put in front of you. Like, his early childhood was horrific, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I think going into the series, I was kind of wondering, and I don't know how I would feel about this, but at the same time, I'm a fan of dark character studies. Like, one of my favorite shows was Mindhunter, and which delved into a similar subject, which was about FBI agents interviewing serial killers.
Yeah.
Renew season 3, by the way, please.
Is it? Well, that could be a review.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I'm gonna say this. I think by the very first episode, it really set up the chilling tone for what was to come. Because, like...
In the first episode of Dahmer?
In the first episode of Dahmer. Because, like, there were kind of moments where I kind of feel it kind of leapt into a bit of shock value.
Yes.
And I kind of feel maybe just the dark elements, maybe just the moments of the characteristics of Dahmer and, you know, the whole... I think those would have been fine enough, but like...
you think they went a little too far?
Maybe
the tension with it alone.
Yeah. I think most of the time it did go a little bit too far.
It nearly made you want to walk away, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was like that was the purpose. You were meant to be horrified what he did.
Yeah. Because, like...
I couldn't sit through a whole episode at times. Sometimes I had to take breaks.
Really?
Yeah, at times I went, this scene just goes, and go have a cup of tea and a cigarette, and I go just chill out for a minute. I'll go back to this.
I know that when I first heard of this series, I thought, okay, do we really need another piece of media about Dahmer? Do we? Because like there was so many stuff, you know, and I wasn't sure if we really would need another one of that.
Yeah.
But I never looked really much into Jeffrey Dahmer at all until this show came along.
Yeah.
And it's things like that, like for people like me, you'd have heard the name. Do you know what I mean? Like I would have heard the name before I watched the show.
And it's actually something they actually deal in the later seasons from becoming a celebrity of sorts. And serial killers becoming celebrities. So you would have heard jokes about Dahmer in work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And when you think about it, okay, at the time you're laughing and joking, but you do forget them victims.
Yeah.
And their families.
And all the people that actually live
friends.
in the apartment complex as well that have to deal with the stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's good, like.
I think it was a wise decision to make it like 10 hours. Because like in the amount of 10 hours it goes into a huge amount of detail revolving the saga of pretty much the early stuff, then to the murders, then to the trial. It was I think it was kind of an extensive sort of detail, and there were moments where I was like, oh my god, I don't know, oh god, because like I was kind of squirming watching some of the moments.
You do, and if you're not into that type of stuff, and if you're not used to it, you will.
There is people that watch horrors, right? And horrors decide to scare you. The thing that was horrifying about this is that happened.
Yeah.
It was.
It wasn't an imagination thing.
And the detail
it happened. Like for me, right, the thing about Dahmer is, like the frontal lobe is, most serial killers, there's some damage to the frontal lobe. That's where we patrol of our behaviours.
Yeah.
Where we might have a bad idea, but we realise, no, we won't do that. That's what separates people from psychopaths.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Mm-hmm. And one of the things I thought was interesting is his relationship with his mother and father. His mother was suicidal for his childhood.
Didn't care.
Didn't care. She was also on massive amounts of medication.
Mental amount.
When she was pregnant.
Mental.
So the question is, did that
affect it?
His neighbour basically comes to the conclusion that he could not be anything else. Now, I'll go give a bit of advice. I have no children, but I'll go give a bit of advice. If you think your child is a potential serial killer, do not teach them how to cut up roadkill, because that trained the man for what he was going to do.
I won't be teaching my kids any of that.
So we see the father actually thought, here's something that's an interest for him, a common interest, we'll bond over it.
It was the only thing he thought he could bond with his son over. It was the only thing he could think of. But he didn't realise his son was getting too into it. He done it once or twice with his father, right? Excuse me. But then it grew on him more when they done it in school.
Yes.
He done it in the school. And then a weird thing in the episode, after he done it, he went up to the teacher at the end of the class. Yeah. Can I take another one home, please? I want to do this at home. But the teacher let him do it. If I went up in school and asked the teacher, can I take a dead frog home or a lamb's heart, they'd tell me to got me way, like.
I think that's because we know of serial killers now. They've been documented, that people see these behaviours and go, oh, like whenever I see someone bad with animals, I always think, hang on, there's something bad in them.
Yeah.
In Graham. Said his mother and father didn't help his early relationship, and I read a little bit more into Dahmer. His alcoholism was terrible from the start, and he never did anything without being drunk, if you notice.
Yeah, he was mad for having a drink.
Yeah.
Even the first kill, he had a drink. Even the first kill, he had a drink.
Like, normally I go to the pub and I might bet on a horse, but I've never done that.
That'll be as far as I go, like, do you know what I mean?
I think what's interesting about the series was that it was a bunch of smaller events that eventually led up to the trial. Like, it was basically just a little bit of pieces that led up to the whole, that led up to eventually the murders, and it wasn't even realized until it's too late. Those happened. And I think that's kind of like, I think in a way that's one thing I do appreciate.
But the warning signs were always there.
They were always there. Yeah.
I mean, he molested and took pictures of 13-year-olds. And because he was from a white family and the young man was from Laos, they didn't care.
No.
They didn't care. It even got so bad that he brought someone back, and his MO, his modus of operandi, was to basically spike people's drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that guy got out of the room, right, was underage, got out of the building, and the cops came.
That's because his neighbour. That's because the neighbour.
The neighbour came out
Glenda.
and said, and she could smell death coming through her vent.
Not even that, she could hear it all through the vent.
Oh.
She could hear the drills, she could hear the saws, she could hear the screams, she could feel the flesh burning, I'd say, she could smell the flesh.
But let's get to the issue of something here. Part of the problem was the stigma of homosexuality back then. No one wanted to inquire about Dahmer's behaviour because they thought it was, in quote, gay stuff.
Yes.
That was his problem. They didn't realise his problem was a major malfunction in human being.
Yeah.
And when the police come in, they basically did not want to deal it. They search through his apartment and find pictures of the victims. And because they're naked men, they assume this is just a pornography
He
thing.
just said, oh, I'm a photographer, like.
He wanted to get shots on himself, to clean himself off. I think the way they showed the victims, because Dahmer he killed Native American people, or a lad, Asian people, black people and Latino people.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were gay, I actually read into this. One of the reasons in Milwaukee, because he's known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, right, is that they used to use code names in the bars because they didn't want their families to know of their life.
Yeah.
After Dahmer was found and arrested, people went back to using their names, telling people who they were. So he was taking advantage of people that were deprived and lower in society, and it was absolutely disgraceful. And he didn't even think he was bad, racist in it.
No.
He thought they were beautiful or something.
Yeah.
This man was twisted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact, what was his neighbour? How many times did she ring the police?
Glenda.
How many times?
There was one time she rang them, and one night I think it was about 12 or 14 times she rang them, and they didn't bother, and they actually got that annoyed with her ringing. They said, if you don't stop, we're going to come up and take you down to the station. And it's real chilling even hearing some of the conversations that she had with the officers, you know, and they didn't give a shit. There's two reasons for that. One, because the area he lived in, okay, it just shows that back then It was a
gay culture, a drug culture,
you were
and a coloured culture that they didn't care of.
Yeah, it was real, like, you're in the slums. You stay there, we don't need to help you, you're there for a reason, die on the streets for all we care. You know, and then another one is, as you said, the whole gay kind of thing going on there. Like, you know, it's like...
They didn't want to look into it.
Like, he showed them pictures, they brought him back up, the police brought him back up. He was like, oh, here's the pictures of me and my boyfriend here, and he showed the pictures and all, and he goes, right, fair enough. And she was like, you're just going to let him you're going to let him go. And he's like, he has pictures of him, he says it's his boyfriend, you know, he says he's 17
We don't deal with this stuff.
Take care now, have a good night, it's been dealt with. You know?
And and that's the thing, like, when we do, I remember, like, you look at a thing and you go, why weren't these people caught? He should have been caught loads of times. Actually, on his first murder, he should have been caught. It was like an episode of Trailer Park Boys. I know that's bringing humour into a subject, but you know the way Ricky gets into the car and whatever he does, he can talk his way out from the cops. Yeah. The car's full of drinks, cigarettes, whatever, shopping carts.
But he just managed to get away with it.
When he's burying the body of the first victim, he's swerving on the road, he's pissed.
Yeah.
And he's black bags with a dead body in the back.
And then he's pulled over.
And he's pulled over and sent home.
Yeah, he got away with it.
Like, I'm sorry to laugh, but, like, at times the situations in it were ridiculous. Yeah. It was like, how did people not see this?
Yeah. Because it wasn't normal that much back then. Most people didn't think of it much back then, you know, as to where nowadays, the technology nowadays is so much better. By that I mean, like, you're able to tell nowadays in hospitals if this person is schizophrenia or if this person just has bipolar or if he's just troubled. Yeah. You know, and there's so many different kind of topics you can base this show off, you know, like child neglect. You know, you can blame it off that.
The chemicals his mother was on.
Exactly, and you can also explain, like...
And even his father was a bit odd. He wasn't a bad man, but he was a bit odd.
He left as well.
He left as well. If you remember
when he killed the first victim, he had no parents there.
No parents.
So both of them were gone. Both of them had left. So that's child neglect in a sense. He was still, he was 17. Under the age of 18 by law, he's still your child. Right, but then another factor
and
is...
his mother was horrified from a child.
Yeah, all because this roadkill.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what horrified her. And she said this to Lionel. She goes, you shouldn't be doing this. Oh, he's enjoying it. He found something he actually has an interest in. Leave him alone, let him do it, like. But he didn't realise that was all a whole mental kind of factor to him.
One of the things I found interesting was the actor Lionel. I remember him being in Step Brothers and all. He was a comedy actor.
Everyone was taking the piss about him. Don't ever play a character of his in a child, because you have the two natural Step Brothers and then you have Dahmer be like, you don't want to be a child of his, like.
Oh, but he was brilliant in it. He brought a humanity to a person trying to do good. He wasn't a malicious man. And even, that was the thing about Dahmer. He wasn't all evil. Especially if he wasn't drinking. The things didn't seem to happen then. Like, he was good to his granny, but then we start seeing him turning twisted to his granny.
She stayed down one night. Do you remember that? She stayed down with him one night when she seen a guy who was pissed on the sofa.
Well, thought.
Yeah, thought he was pissed on the sofa. And she stayed up and he just threw him on the bus.
It's funny because you're watching it at times. I'm sorry to be laughing, but you're watching it at times and going, how did people not see this?
How were people that stupid back then?
Or like they didn't care. And as you said, they really did cover the victims. Jesse Jackson was in this trying to promote, and we actually see the police that let him away with it got looked after.
Yeah.
Which was disgraceful.
Shows the corruption.
And then we see a scene where, unfortunately, and it goes, what I thought was interesting is it goes into the celebrity of serial killers. The building where they lived, right? People were coming taking pictures of it. So we see Glenda's daughter breaks a camera because she's disgusted by this.
And then she got arrested for it. She got arrested because she broke the camera. Do you remember that? Speaking of the whole celebrity thing on it though.
I was like, what the hell? Why?
Yeah, and speaking of the whole celebrity thing with that, but you were saying like they're taking pictures there, right? Do you remember when he was in jail? he had fan mail coming in and they were asking for autographs. I remember he signed a picture on a piece of paper of his hand.
Yeah.
He sent it back out and the girl sent it back $20.
It was sick.
And then with that $20 he got himself a radio.
Yeah.
To play whale noises.
At the same time, I feel like that moment where I feel like that moment does display a lot of themes that it wants to say throughout the series. I appreciated a bit more when it was an examination of how the victims and how the rest of the families were affected by the actions of Dahmer, and especially it's about the whole series is about a lot of things, and I kind of feel like maybe it does them well. Well, and there were a lot of moments where I appreciated it, and there are a bunch of moments where I felt like, okay, maybe they're leaning too far into the exploitive shock value territory, and I would have liked it a bit more if it was a bit more clinical in its like investigation.
Yeah, there has been criticisms that it's been dramatised a bit.
Yeah,
most definitely. But one thing, and I think I took well, was the Glenda character. She's like our point of view character.
She was played by the actor's name was Nishi Nash.
Yeah,
Nissi Nash. And she played that role fantastic.
I loved the friendship between the Lao father the victim she tried to save. The friendship she had with that Lao father.
Speaking of them, not the way you were talking about the whole for the life after for the families like and all that. Yeah. Speaking of the Lao family, do you know what I remember for that? And I thought, now I might laugh. Okay, it's not funny. I understand, but. Thinking of it, like, what made you even think of that? That the coppers kept ringing them up every night.
And racially abusing them.
And abusing them and all. Don't you dare take that 10,000. Or take that 10,000 and piss off with your family to another country. Get out of here now. Oh, I'm sorry, right? I know that I shouldn't be laughing, obviously. But
it's a nervous laugh though, isn't it?
That's mad. Like, imagine your son...
And then we see the black captain come out. And they're doing it behind his back.
Yeah, and imagine like your son had only been killed, and then every night he was getting them. Every night you're getting these phone calls, getting abuse, getting the abuse you're getting over, you know. And that alone was crazy, and you actually seen it affect that family more than any of the other families.
Yeah.
But you also seen it with was it Dan?
Well, I remember his daughter's wedding, and when Glenda comes to speak to him. Even though...
that wasn't the wedding, that was the wake.
No, it wasn't the wake. He came to them in the wake, but there was a wedding later on.
Yes.
And it's like Dahmer took away his ability...
To live life.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He said, I should be happy. He was in his suit, he was saying... And let's talk about the scene where the judge basically belittles him.
Oh, yeah. That scene where he was... That scene where he was basically belittling the father of the victim.
The father of the victim, the molestation case.
Disgusting. And like, but like at the same time, I kind of help but can't feel like that scene delivers like a theme involving, favoritism and how we tend to like view people. How we like tend to view
good
people
and bad
in communities. In a sort of a bias.
Yes.
In a sort of a bias kind of thing where we don't really properly pay attention to what they have to say, and the fact that the judge was kind of like treating Dahmer was like, oh, but you'll be able to learn next time, and like what?
Yeah,
he did a horrible thing.
He used his alcohol as an excuse. As I said to you before, people will use victimization to manipulate people, and that's what Dahmer did. Like,
and he was good at it.
He was very good at it. Like, even myself, I felt, hang on, I have to remember he was a monster. Now, there's, in the Marvel universes, and I said, we're trying to be respectful here, but in the Marvel universes, let's say there's the Black Widow film or something, and that Black Panther appears for 2 minutes.
Yep,
I know what you're talking about. We get this introduction to another character for a possible other series.
The last season episode, you get it started off. And it started off real weird, and I didn't know much about this other. We're not going to get too much into him, I don't think.
But Gacy.
Gacy. I never heard of this fella either, but the whole start of this episode, you just see what happens, what goes on, then you see him dressed as a clown and whatnot, and you're like, is this, you're kind of thinking, is that the effect that Dahmer has had on other people?
Yes, well, you can see that they had the same MO. They had the exact same MO, right? And I have to say, the scenes, obviously it's unsettling when he comes him in, and the first thing when he gives him the drink, he's like, what's going on here? It's only a Coke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that Gacy scene was the most horrifying scene.
That was
horrifying scene. And I thought it was interesting how they then played out, okay, these two guys are serial killers, and there's a great conversations with the priest that Dahmer has, that Gacy didn't believe he did wrong. Dahmer believed he did wrong.
Yeah.
And all he wanted to do was be forgiven. And we see that, like, you know, like Dahmer felt sorry, but he couldn't stop himself. This is what Glenda taught. And you know, a good story always has, you know, the rise and fall, every boxing film. Yeah. But we see the fall of Dahmer. And his death is vicious.
Yeah.
His death is vicious.
The other fella that did it, though, he
was a psychiatric patient.
Mad as well.
But the thing is, like,
he deserved
when
it.
I'm watching him hurt Dahmer, I'm kind of saying to myself,
don't.
But then you're saying, actually do. Yeah. He deserves this.
Yeah. You're kind of hoping that he doesn't kill him.
But you're going, it's a horrifying scene.
You know he is going to kill him. That's what happened. He died in jail. That's what happened. So you knew this is this is obviously where he's coming to his own. But you're watching it, and as we said, it makes him out to be the victim. So you're kind of like, don't. Give him another episode or two, you know? Like
There were so many horrifying scenes in the series, and I feel like the series is kind of like designed to give you like these sort of ambivalent emotions where you feel one thing and simultaneously you feel another thing, and I feel like the series does like a bit of a nice job at doing that, and it is like it's a very tough, very dark subject to explore, and when most people would think, I don't even think that this should be explored even further, but like. And even though there are moments where I kind of feel like...
But they wanted to cover it up.
Yeah.
They tried to cover it up by demolishing the building. Glenda wants a monument to the victims.
Yeah.
They covered that up. So, I don't know, like, I think...
I think we'll leave the rest for the people to watch.
Leave to watch, but to be honest with you, if you fast forward through some of this, I don't blame you.
Yeah. Try sticking out, we're all soldiers here.
And they do say, if you can watch the first episode, there is something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So what does that say about us doing 10 episodes?
Good question.
We're not all there, but sure, look.
Well, good question. That'll be up to the viewer.
Yeah.
So do you all kind of do the ratings there on a limb?
What do you give it?
This is so tough. I think I'm going to have to go with 7 out of 10, because like there are moments where I feel oh, they've done a lot of stuff they've done a lot of stuff of technical wise, mostly technical and performance wise. They nailed it. It was really good and solid. But I think in terms of the way that it explores or the whole themes that it was trying to explore, there are moments where I kind of feel this was a bit exploitative at times.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like maybe a bit more clinical, restrained look would have made a far more interesting and far more compelling series, in my opinion. Because like this is a subject that is so tough and so, you know, risky to explore, because like this, we're talking about a serial killer. We're talking about a series about a serial killer who has done heinous, dangerous crimes, you know, to people who absolutely do not deserve it.
He's alien to us, isn't he?
Crazy.
Because he's a cat. He's eating them as well.
Do you know what before I give it? Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
I appreciate the intent with what was done with the series. Reese, maybe to honour the victims. I appreciate that.
But they didn't like that they went and honoured it, because there was actually some complaints about some of the families that they went off and made this series.
Yeah. They didn't want the story to be retold. Yeah. Because it brought hurt to them.
Because like we got too much media involving him, you know? We got too much. It's basically repeated and done 1,000 times.
Yeah. So yourself, where do you want to rate this? You don't want to rate it highly, but you did find it interesting.
I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be bluntly honest, and call me crazy, but I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10,
Why 10 out of 10?
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10, and here's my reason why. I know it's a show based on a serial killer. That's what he's known as. He's known as a cannibal. And I enjoyed watching it, not for the fact of I felt sorry for him. They done really well to kind of get into as much detail of it as they could, you know. And I know there was parts where you're kind of like, oh, I don't think I can watch this. That's what they want you to feel. They want you to feel that, so then you know, right, so if that's how you feel, imagine how them victims felt.
Most
you know, definitely. And that's, see, with that, I thought it was fantastic doing that. And there was one scene in particular that stood out for me in the whole series. And I'm going to be honest about it, right? Do you remember the neighbour? He was being evicted.
Yes.
Now, do you remember he went into her and sat inside on the couch, and he made her a sandwich and gave her the sandwich.
That scene.
He knew what the sandwich was. She knew what the sandwich was, but they didn't know if each other knew it themselves. And he sat there and wanted her to eat that, and she refused point blank to eat that. Now, just something as small as that, I thought was, right, I can't say it was fantastic, but it was clever for him. It was clever on his point. It was like, I know you fucked me over.
But it showed she wanted no part of what he ever did, because she knew whatever he was doing was evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that kind of subtext, I think it's great. Because, like, in definitely that scene, you don't even know, they don't tell you whether or not what kind of meat it's from, but it deliberately shows.
I don't think it was Denny's ham.
Yeah.
I really don't think it was Denny's ham. No, seriously, I don't think you could buy that stuff in Dunn's.
Yeah, but like...
Maybe a little.
Yeah, but like, in a way, it definitely shows the battle between Glenda and Dahmer, you know, internally.
Yeah.
But Glenda's basically saying, you are evil. I don't want no part. You are evil, and I hope you deserve everything that's coming to you. I want nothing to do with you. And it's basically like...
It's her repulsion of...
Yeah, it's a repulsion. They just show you that. They don't tell you straight
She's
up.
a good person, and she can't even handle it.
The one person I felt sorry for throughout this whole series, though, and I did feel sorry for them, was Lionel.
Yeah.
Because no matter what he done, he always wanted to try and do something to help him. He went
even send them to the grandmothers. Enabled them killing
send
people.
Them to the army.
But he thought it would help them.
Sent them to the
And then in the army they teach him the drug that knocks people out.
That's where he learned all this stuff.
He was a medic.
It was mental.
So he really asks questions when people go to the army, and if they're not right, what they will do later.
Is it going to help them? Or is it going to make it
worse?
Are you going to create this whole psychotic serial killer all over? Like, so what do you give it out of 10, Paul?
I'm going to give it a 9, and I'm going to tell you the reason. Really.
Not for the Denny's ham, anyway.
No, not for the Denny's ham. Or the fajita style chicken. But it was cause it showed me how his victims and his families went through. And when I was watching this, I was watching this man destroy other human beings. And you could only feel empathy for people in this situation. And I think that balanced it off. So for me, it was an uncomfortable watch, but I think people should know back then that people were homosexual in certain areas. The police didn't investigate it. If they were black, Native American, Asian, they didn't recognise these as people. So my thing is, was Dahmer different to them in some fashion? Yeah. So for me, it is annoying. I can understand if you don't watch this, but I have to say,
Troy,
it showed what was happening to them people back then and the oppression that they were truly suffering. So as I said, I'll give it a 9, and as I said, As I said, you were saying Evan Peters is Quicksilver.
Yeah, I can't watch him the same
Marvel.
anymore. He's in the X-Men, the Days of Future Past and whatnot. He's actually Quicksilver in it, and I can't look at him the same.
I've genuinely learned never take a drink off anybody now, and never take a sandwich off anybody.
Do you know what I like? Not a song in it. Hey, I love you so. Believe it or not, I'm sitting at home and I'm listening to that song while I'm washing the dishes. And I turned around there 2 weeks ago when me and my missus were watching it. I first started putting the song on. She turned around and she just looked at me in there, and I'm in there dancing and all like that, giving it sucks in the kitchen. She's like, "You alright?" No.
Yeah. It got it. That's the thing about this show. It got in your head.
Yeah.
But look, I think we'll wrap up on there, as I said. But look, as I said, we are looking to do different content on the channel. Any suggestions, anyone want to shout out, send us a comment below the video, and like, share and subscribe. 4 Stories Dublin, our Instagram, 4 Stories Dublin, with more content coming. We'll hope to see you for the next video.
Most definitely. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you. You have a good day.